feel.
Today, Evian surpassed Perrier in sales, and now it's the chic French water of choice. Why? It costs about $5 a gallon. Why do people pay so much for something you can get for free? If they're not buying Evian, they buy Aquafina and Dasani and the dozens of new brands that are jumping into this billion-dollar business, including bizarre ones like Venus, the water for women, and this one with the Donald scowling at us. I'd have to be very thirsty to buy that.
Me, as a parent, I feel more comfortable giving her bottled water.
I drink Poland Spring, and that water is clean, it looks clean, it tastes clean, and it's like, it's clean. Yeah, it's clean.
Bottled water, we were told, is cleaner, safer, healthier.
Another of nature's gifts you can use to do something healthy.
We took 5 bottles of national brands of bottled water and a sample of tap water from this drinking fountain in the middle of New York City and sent them to microbiologist Aaron Margolin to test for the bacteria that can make you sick, like E. coli. What did he find?
There was actually no difference between the New York City tap water and the bottled waters that we evaluated.
The labels on the bottles do suggest they're special. Some show mountains or polar bears, but many of the names are wondrously misleading. You have to look at the fine print to find out that Everest water is not from Mount Everest, it's from here, Corpus Christi, Texas. Glacier Clearwater is not from a glacier. It sources tap water from Greenville, Tennessee. Couldn't find any glaciers around here. Big selling Dasani, Aquafina, and 25% of all bottled water sold is just reprocessed tap water from cities around the country. One of Aquafina's sources is the Detroit River.
Instead of a wine steward, we created the world's first water steward.
But this is how the water steward got the water, which he put in bottles with fancy labels. And sure enough, most of the unsuspecting diners loved their elegant waters.
How would you compare it to tap water?
Oh yeah, definitely better than tap.
But bottom line, if you buy bottled water because you think it's healthier than tap, test after test shows no evidence of that. And if you buy fancy brands because you think they taste better, you're probably just buying the hype.
Really, whether you need it or not, it's a virtual medicine cabinet in your tap water if you live in many, many areas across the country. There's a scary new report out today. The Associated Press did a big amount of research on this, and the findings show that there were traces of prescription drugs in the water supply used by 41 million Americans in some of the biggest cities in the U.S. The list includes over-the-counter pain medication, mood stabilizers, even hormones. CNN's Elizabeth Cohen joins us now from the Medical Update desk in Atlanta. First, explain where they found it and what it is that they found, Elizabeth.
Well, the Associated Press, Karen, they spent 5 months investigating this, and they looked at various municipal water supplies. Not all of them keep track of whether or not they're pharmaceuticals, but the ones that do, they all had traces of various medicines. And I'm going to give you a list. This will give you some idea of the kinds of things that they found. For example, in Atlanta, where I am right now, they found that the water contained traces of antibiotics, blood pressure drugs, in Cincinnati, cholesterol drugs. They found a trace of one of those, and estrogen that women sometimes take for medicinal reasons. And in New York City, they found a trace of a seizure drug and an anti-anxiety drug. Now, to give you sort of the big picture, how many drugs did they find in the drinking water? In Philadelphia, they found trace amounts of 56 different drugs. In New York City, they found traces of 16 drugs, and in northern New Jersey, 13 drugs. Now, the question that right now is on everyone's mind is, how in the world did drugs get into our drinking water? Well, it's not very pretty, and I'll give you the sort of sanitized version. We all take drugs, and our body does not absorb 100% of everything. Some of it passes through our body, ends up in sewage. Sewage is then treated and ends up back in the water system. Of course, the next question is, well, what about bottled water? Well, I hate to sound so pessimistic here. Bottled water often just is repackaged tap water. And that doesn't help us much at all either, or even sometimes if it's spring water, it could still possibly contain these trace amounts. Humans basically have an impact everywhere, and those filters at home, they are not sensitive enough to get rid of the pharmaceutical.
This morning, I went through my bathroom cabinet, and this is what I found. And I know that I'm not the only one filling my cabinets with pills, ointments, other types of medications which are more or less vital for my survival and well-being. In fact, there are some 10,000 different active substances consumed in Sweden every day. And when these substances have done their job in our bodies, or on our skin, if we rub them on our skin, they end up at the wastewater treatment plant via the sewers. So the question is then, is this an issue? Well, today's wastewater treatment plants are not designed to take care of these substances. And what is not removed at the wastewater treatment plant ends up in the environment. And researchers have seen that there are negative effects on the life or the aquatic life downstream of wastewaters. This poor fish died. And so then we have to ask ourselves, what happens? Is it the same for all substances? Well, the fate is very varying. Taking two commonly used painkillers, I know you have all seen these, if not used them. It's ibuprofen and diclofenac, or more commonly known as ibuprofen and Voltaren. At the wastewater treatment plant, up to 90% of the ibuprofen is actually degraded by the bacteria, while only some 20% is removed of the diclofenac. So that means that 80% is actually released into the environment. Is there anything we can do? Well, there are technologies. There's a number of different technologies that we can use to improve the degradation of these substances. And I work specifically with ozonation. So by bubbling the ozone gas through the treated wastewater, the highly reactive ozone molecule can oxidize the pharmaceuticals and rendering them inactive. So by applying ozone, we can actually reach to below 1% of the incoming concentrations of diclofenac. And this is not only true for this compound, but for a number of substances. For example, the synthetic hormones from birth control pills. And these substances have actually shown to cause problems with, for example, reproduction and gender change in fish. So it might prove very important to actually take care of these substances and reduce the environmental concentrations. In my work, I focus on the Swedish wastewater treatment plants and how to optimize this ozone treatment to the conditions that we have here. I specifically look at what compounds in the water affects the ozone consumption, and I try to find patterns that we can apply in order to reduce the need for. So, will the treatment of pharmaceutical residues in wastewater be the new big thing within wastewater treatment? Well, I think that we really need to understand the value of clean water, and with that comes proper treatment of wastewater. And whether this includes upgrading the existing plants or adding new treatment steps, we need to take into account these new and emerging contaminants such as pharmaceuticals. And that's all for me.
big role in COVID-19 research. Scientists from the U of A discovering an enzyme similar to one found in snake venom could be driving COVID death.
ABC15 Ashley Perez breaking down the discovery and what it means for the future.
Losing a battle with COVID-19, it's like having rattlesnake venom running through your body. At least, that's what researchers are telling us.
We found evidence that there was an enzyme, a snake-like enzyme, in the blood of people who were dying in extraordinarily high levels.
Scientists from the University of Arizona working on this study for the past year and a half, recently publishing it in the Journal of Clinical Investigation. The snake-like enzyme found in healthy people at low levels to prevent bacterial infections. But in severe cases of COVID-19, it's doing the opposite.
Those high levels of this enzyme are looking at those tissues and the organs and saying, you look like a bacteria, let's shred your membranes, let's put these organs out of their misery.
And we're told it may be what's driving COVID-19 deaths. Dr. Floyd Chilton, senior author on the study, saying what's even more remarkable is where we can go from here in the fight against this pandemic.
And we come up with specific therapeutics that will not care which variant is coming towards you.
Researchers explain that current clinical trials on snake bites are helping in those efforts. They can possibly repurpose some of the treatments being tested. This could one day result in a viable option other than vaccines to prevent death in severe patients.
And that allows us to take a precision medicine approach to the disease. We can go into clinical trials and choose the people who are at risk of this mechanism.
Their hope regarding the next step is an international multi-center clinical trial. They're working with global organizations to see how they can make that possible. The expert for his take on this.
Something that is almost as universally loathed as rattlesnakes. It seems fitting and interesting and ironic that the venom that they have and rattlesnakes might be a key to getting out of this whole situation.
I'm Ashley Paredes, ABC 15, Arizona.
All to attend, snakes starting to play